use this adjournment opportunity to lay out very clearly the issues around this project, which is now known, unfortunately, by most Londoners as the vanity project. And certainly not, even though it's being responded to tonight by a transport minister, it's not a transport project. I know that Lord Ahmed should really be the minister answering, but of course he is in the House of Lords, so I welcome the minister here and hope that he has understood his brief in the wider context. I want first of all to pay tribute to all those who have worked so hard to shine a light on the failings of the Garden Bridge project. Thames Central Open Spaces, Waterloo Community Development Group, those in the Greater London Authority cross-party who did their best to get to the truth, especially Liberal Democrat Caroline Pidgeon, Labour Tom Copley and Conservative Andrew Boff. All on different parties, but all united on this issue. The local councillors for Bishop's Ward, just across the river here, particular Councillor Mosley and Councillor Craig, who've been brave enough to stand up to their own Labour council on this, representing strongly the views of their particular local area. A great deal of the information that I'm using tonight has had to be dragged out of public bodies by freedom of information requests. And I pay tribute to the work of journalists like Will Hurst from the Architects Journal, Peter Walker from The Guardian, Theo Usherwood from the LBC and Hannah Baines from Newsnight, who've done so much to make sure that this information, which should have been public in the first place, has been made transparent. And I have to say that many of us in London have been incredibly disappointed with the London's Evening Standard, who from the beginning have ignored any criticism or alternative view of the Garden Bridge. They really have been the official mouthpiece of the Garden Bridge Trust. Perhaps not surprisingly, as at one time their proprietor was actually shown as a governor of the Garden Bridge Trust. Now that is no longer the case. But it is sad that a paper once known for its fearless reporting has on this issue acted as a cheerleader without recognition of the widespread opposition from Londoners. Yes, I will give... Now, I'm not a NIMBY, and I'm not afraid to support unpopular causes. I also support some popular ones as well, as we've seen fairly recently. But I supported the London Eye, for example, from the beginning, despite many members in this House who thought that it was wrong. They thought that their terrace would actually be overlooked. It's interesting now to look back on that. People in this House of Commons opposed the London Eye because they didn't want to be overlooked from when they were out on the terrace. Now, it was delivered without a penny of public money. It was painstakingly argued for by the two brilliant architects, David Marks and Julia Barfield, who are actually my constituents, who spoke and discussed with every group to win their confidence. And most importantly at that time, because we are going back some years now, the London Eye actually was the catalyst for regeneration on that part of the South Bank. There was a specific trust set up so that a percentage of the profit goes directly still to keep the area policed and cleaned. The Garden Bridge Trust have behaved so differently. Their consultation, if existing at all, can only be described as lacklustre. They treated local views with disdain, acting always as if anyone who objected was some kind of stupid. And I have to say that another constituent of mine, who I have huge admiration for, Joanna Lumley, I was very disappointed when even she, at various times, almost disparaged people who had genuine objections. Now, I have to admit that when I first heard about the Garden Bridge across the Thames, I probably did like most people and thought, oh, that sounds really nice. When described, the proposed Garden Bridge leaves the impression of some kind of enchanting, mythical passage between the Temple and the South Bank, an escape from noise and pollution, a tranquil hiding place. So who wouldn't have thought, what a nice idea? But when you look at the reality, it is very, very different. It will land in my constituency on a beautiful site overlooking the Thames with 29 mature trees and wonderful views of St. Paul's. The site is an asset of community value, dearly loved by locals and visitors, and it was a public open space which would be lost to a huge concrete visitor entrance retail centre building manned by security guards. This area was one by long and hard-fought battle by the local community through the 1970s and 1980s to secure green open space beside the river for the benefit of local residents, local workers and visitors. So once I'd really looked into the Garden Bridge proposals, I realised that even if the concept seemed nice, it was in the wrong place. There were other parts of the river where a transport crossing was far more needed, but more crucially, there is the cost. This is not simply a local issue, nor even a London issue. It carries national significance in respect of the use of public funds and the delivery of a major infrastructure project in a specific location to the value of £185 million. In my view, the arguments are very, very weak in respect of its need, its supporting business case, and especially the location. Other areas of London have significant need of investment of this sort, as do so many very other important regions of our country. I absolutely agree, and it's you know, I will stick up for London. I do believe London, being the great city it is, the capital city of our country, loved by people who live here, but very, very open to tourism, does need sometimes special arrangements. We have with our policing, for example. But, you know, this is something very, very different. And I have to say that perhaps the problem with my two honourable friends who have spoken from their area, that maybe the difference is that they don't have Joanna Lumley living in their area. So let's look at the cost. When the Garden Bridge was first announced, it was claimed it would not require a penny of public money. And very soon, the former Chancellor announced £30 million of support, and TfL also came up with £30 million. So £60 million of taxpayers' money has been committed to a project that literally came out of thin air. Had never been discussed with anyone before it was announced, unless, of course, in private discussions between Joanna Lumley and the former Chancellor and others. From the beginning, those supporting the Garden Bridge Trust behaved as if they knew they had support in high places. And, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, they had. The report in February by Project Compass, which is a not-for-profit procurement intelligence service going through in great detail procurement processes, goes into great detail on how this whole procurement process was handled. The tender originally asked for broad options for a pedestrian bridge between Temple and the South Bank and made no mention of a garden living bridge element. As a result, only the Heatherwick studio bid responded with not just a garden bridge proposal, but a design drawing and actual location plan of the garden bridge. This had not been called for in the tender spec, yet Heatherwick Studio received the highest mark for their understanding of the brief. A single person at City Hall assessed the technical and commercial evaluation of the three bids, that person being Richard de Cannae, Managing Director for Planning for TfL. Now, normally, subjective judgments in public tender documents would have a team of assessors to ensure impartiality. But this is the same Richard de Cannae who we now know used to work for Arup. That's the same Arup who then, in another flawed tendering process, as outlined by Project Compass, won the contract for the Temple Bridge part of the Garden Bridge Trust and have had over £8 million given to them. And now it gets worse. Where has Mr de Cannae gone back to work with? Well, Arup, of course. Arup seem actually to like ex-City Hall staff because they have just appointed, sometimes recently, their new global transport leader is Isabel Dedring, the former City Hall Deputy Head of Transport. And she was personally involved with nearly all the meetings prior to the tendering process with Thomas Heatherwick. So both of the officers directly involved with the entire process have now left City Hall and gone to be employed by the Garden Bridge engineer and lead consultant Arup. It could be a coincidence, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, but I think most fair-minded people would think this is very strange. Even the GLA's internal audit head, Clive Walker, admitted that the procurement had been neither open nor objective. So there's a real question mark over the procedure, and yet the